isn't lying. He did call me 2 days ago and he said, would you mind speaking? And I said, no, absolutely, I'd be honored. And I really am honored to be here among you. I was here briefly in Texas for about 18 months, nearly 2 years. I did serve in Coppell. And I have to tell you, while I was here, I worked with some of the finest firemen, some of the greatest human beings I've ever had the pleasure to know. Texas is the home to some of the greatest firefighters that ever faced this planet. And surely here in the Dallas Metroplex area, the very finest are collected, and I was very honored to be here with you. It was interesting when I came down here, my family all asked me, I'm originally from the South Bronx, so I apologize if occasionally my Bronx accent will come out. But they asked me about living down here in Texas. I said, well, I'm in the Bible Belt. What was interesting is I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I now live in a little town called Owasso, which is just north of Tulsa. Matter of fact, Garth Brooks is one of my neighbors. And they said, how's things up in Oklahoma? And I said, well, I moved from the Bible Belt to the Bible Belt buckle. I never met so many goddamn preachers in all my life. Can't swing a dead cat without hitting a man with a collar. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm a Catholic, so every Saturday I'm like the first guy. Father John Carney, who's my personal priest, and gives you an idea where I'm coming from, I have to have a personal priest. I have a standing appointment with him every Saturday afternoon where he curses at me relentlessly for about an hour and a half, and then somehow blesses me and I'm back on my way. I got a feeling that when I get to heaven I'll be suspended there too. But it really is truly an honor to be here. And you know, the first inaugural anything is truly landmark. And so let me just begin by telling you that there's no greater thing that you can do for your fellow firefighters than be a member of the color guard or be a member of the pipe and drums. No greater thing. And I really have to thank Ricky for allowing me to be the first person to speak to you at this particular event. And I was telling Ricky the last time that he and I were in a room with this many guys in dresses, we were judging the men's bikini waxing contest in Key West. But that's a whole other story. He probably doesn't want me to go there, so I'm just kidding. But thank you again for having me, and I'm going to begin with a few remarks. The character of the American Fire Service didn't just happen. It was forged through tradition and experience. We take exceptional pride in our fire service customs and traditions, and by your presence here today, I know that you understand how desperate our need is today to uphold our rich heritage through our actions, our conduct, our appearance, and our attitude. If I were to ask you today why you are here keeping tradition alive, why are you here today in Lewisville, Texas, I know your answer without hesitation would be for the training. For the training which is going to better equip us to pay proper respects when we're called upon, regardless if it's at a time of great sorrow or a time of great joy. And for this I salute you all. But this is also the reason why I regret that I'm not better suited or worthy to address such a dedicated assembly of public servants. With your forgiveness and indulgence, I'd like to humbly begin with a few of my thoughts on how our customs and courtesies truly define our culture, and how they measure, by our observance, how they measure our worthiness to count ourselves as members. See, firefighters are members of a calling which represents man's greatest humanity to man. And in our service, it's customary to have color guards and pipes and drums at our significant events. And by adhering to these customs and courtesies, we define ourselves as belonging to something greater, as belonging to the fire service. Our customs and traditions are part of an earned heritage. Etiquette and discipline are founded upon this heritage. Our customs come from actions which were uniformly followed over a long period of time. Customs are time-honored practices that have force of law inside of the societies to which they belong, such as saluting a superior officer, and even more importantly, properly returning that salute. You see, tradition is not about things or artifacts. Tradition is about taking action. It's the living embodiment of our customs. Tradition is an action verb, and in the fire service, it is not optional. You cannot belong to the fire service and not respect, adhere to, and observe our traditions, our customs, and our courtesies. Tradition requires that we pass down the elements of our heritage from generation to generation. You see, these traditions in the fire service were developed and inspired by the heroic performance of members of this great institution, the fire service. Members whose names are long since forgotten, but whose heritage, whose legacy, every man and woman in this room strive to emulate. When I ask you why you care, why you practice your drill and piping so diligently, you're going to answer to me because you are proud to be firefighters. Firefighters make no attempt to hide our honor of being members or our pride in our association with our fellow firefighters. Sadly, however, we are among the few who stand shoulder to shoulder willing to defend our heritage. I've noticed a trend that's growing in our society today and becoming more and more popular. It seems it's almost become fashionable to be apologetic, contrite, and remorseful about this country's heritage, about our fundamental beliefs, our legacies, our ethics, and even our religious heritage. In fact, it seems that the secular progressives in today's society believe that you have a character flaw if you are not ashamed of something in your life, your culture, your heritage, or even your profession. Every man and woman in this room must remember that the fire service can never assume that we are insulated from this manipulated disintegration of our national pride. Color guards and pipes and drums reflect a tremendous influence that history, our belief system and heritage and ethics are all deeply embedded in the fire service culture for centuries have had on firefighters. The word culture comes from a Latin verb, colare, which means to cultivate. The word culture refers to our activities, our work, and the symbolic structures, such as our firehouses and our apparatus, which give our activities such lasting significance. Our use of symbols in our culture is dramatically important because it represents our highest value, and that is service to others. Every firefighter in this room knows that our lives are only made meaningful through service to others. Doing things for ourselves is hollow. It's empty. The skills you are mastering this week are so important because they represent how we honor that service, how we show our respect and love of our calling, and how we show our love of those who have been called. I'm concerned when I see this popular yet repulsive social fad of self-hate and self-loathing try to creep into our noble professions. And I hear good firefighters say, well-meaning, that we need to change. But please understand that that change has to be normal and expected, and it should only be required to kind of tweak our operational stuff. You see, every organization requires recalibration from time to time, but not in terms of our heritage, our culture, our ethics, or belief, because firefighters need not feel guilty about our heritage, which is steeped in heroic sacrifices made by some of the most phenomenal persons who have ever been on this earth. Firefighters need never feel guilty to be proud to call themselves firefighters, or they should never feel guilty about what happens on the fire ground anywhere, ever.